1974.
Preview show.
To Goodison Park on Sunday, and for those of you not going, it is on Sky Sports at 2:00. All looking forward to it, I'm sure. Talking of Sky Sports, I am joined by Dave Reed to preview this game. But before we exchange pleasantries, this show is sponsored by Luke Roper. If you want to get 20% off everything Luke have to offer, then use the code TVV20 and it'll do that for you. David, let's exchange those pleasantries. How are you?
Well, I'm all right. Yeah, I feel like I've been struggling with a cold for about
same.
2 weeks since before Christmas. I'm not my usual voice. People know isn't this voice. It's just felt like it's dropped a little bit. So I'm battling through. But apart from that, I'm all right.
But won't let standards drop, will you? You don't let standards drop for stuff like this.
Absolutely not. No, I'm forever a 6 out of 10.
Yeah, forever. And not in looks, though. In looks, at least a 7. A steady 7, I would say. You've been working today as well. Transfer shows. No mention of Villa, though, I'm presuming.
No, nothing today. Sancho obviously got confirmed. So the bulk of it was that, particularly at lunchtime. And then Eric Dyer as well arrived slightly unexpectedly. I think we weren't quite expecting it to advance that quickly. But yeah, he arrived this morning. So there was a lot of chat about that.
Yes, no Everton really doing anything, no Villa doing anything on the transfer shows at the moment either. Maybe one day we'll get to talk about Villa on the transfer shows, but we're going to talk about Villa right here because, as I've said, they travel to Goodison Park on Sunday. Now, I had in my head, Dave, that Everton were going pretty well. Sean Dyche was doing a good job, which he is, in fairness. They're down the relegation zone due to losing 10 points, really. They'd be 12th without that 10-point deduction. They're actually on a run of 4 games without a win in the Premier League, which I've got to admit had kind of flown underneath my radar.
Yeah, it had a little bit. I guess people might say they were expected to lose against Manchester City and Tottenham.
B&M's not. It's not what everyone does, is it? Just people like us.
No, it's not for everyone, is it? It's not for everyone. But you're right. The kind of story around Everton recently, particularly since the 10-point deduction, has been what a great job Sean Dyche is doing, which he is.
Yep.
He is doing a great job. But I think more recently, I was the same. I had it kind of in my head that they're on a great run of form when actually they haven't won since before Christmas. So I think, it's probably, I know I'm kind of stealing a phrase from you here, but it feels like a good time to play Everton.
I don't think I can have that as my own phrase. It's quite, it's not very unique, is it? I can't say that I could have that as my own catchphrase and lambaste you for using it.
Maybe you should make it your own.
I mean, I have said it a number of times. In fairness, I don't think I've ever said it's a bad time to be playing anyone. But in fairness, we are second in the league, so the phrase has worked pretty well as the season's gone on. We've just had a little look through injuries. Obviously, Emery hasn't done his press conference at the moment. We'll come on to Everton. They've got a few players missing for various reasons, but we are hopeful that Pau Torres, I would think, would be back. We'll know more in Emery's press conference on Friday. Tillemans, perhaps as well. Pau Torres is the big one because I'm desperate to see him back in the team because we've really missed him.
Yeah, we have. It's I listened to you and Jacob on your podcast this week, and it was about, and I agreed really. When I didn't quite realise how good he was until he steps out of the team, and when he's been out of the team, you realise how good he is. And that's not trying to throw shade on Clement Longley, who is an adequate replacement. It's just Pau Torres is a kind of another level when it comes to the position that he's in and the way he's played this season. And I kind of agreed with you. What you guys were saying, that Longley is he's good at most things, but he's not amazing at anything. So, as I say, an adequate replacement, but it'd be great to have Pau Torres back. The kind of passing angles that he creates, his incisiveness on the ball, the way he's able to carry the ball, it has been a miss because Longley, it's not that he's bad on the ball, he's pretty decent on the ball, it's just not quite the same as Pau Torres.
Well, Pau Torres is just so unique, isn't he? I was reading something earlier, I think it was on Football 365, and they're basically saying he's been a great signing and he'd improved most Premier League teams, and Villa did so well to pick him up for the fee that they picked him up for. He would be huge to come back. I think he is a real game changer in there just because he just can step it. He basically does what a ball-playing number 6 does, as a centre back, and that gives so many advantages in the way Villa build up. And I think Villa haven't managed to. I don't think passing generally has been great for Villa in the last few games. I think it was really sharp. Everyone was putting the right weight on pass, doing it at the right time. In previous games, you think of the Man City game and the Arsenal games in particular, we just lack some kind of vibrancy and tempo. When Pau Torres is not there, he almost dictates the tempo of the game from centre back, doesn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're right. The passing hasn't been as kind of sharp and crisp as it has been previously. The Manchester United game sticks out a little bit as to probably the worst I've seen us pass the ball, particularly in that second half this season. And I just think against teams who like to defend, I mean, we saw it against Burnley, we saw it against Middlesbrough. I mean, Burnley and Middlesbrough, not necessarily low blocks, I don't think, but sides that want to have or wanted to stop us playing by having men behind the ball. So having Pau Torres in there is another option. So when those sides do block off the pass into Douglas Luiz or Boubacar Kamara, Pau Torres is able to find that pass into the 10s or into Ollie Watkins' feet. So having his quality on the ball is another alternative. And he's almost the way that we break down sides when they have men behind the ball or we face a low block rather than going from outside to in. So he's become such an important figure in that back line.
Yeah, Everton will set up in that kind of way. They'll either be quite deep defensively, or I think they'll flood the midfield. I thought that was what Middlesbrough did well in the FA Cup game. That they flooded that midfield and made it really tough for Villa to operate in the central areas like they like to. Like McGinn coming inside, for example, we didn't see much of that because there just simply wasn't the space to do that against Middlesbrough. So this will be a tough game. I don't think it'll be a high scoring game, but as ever with Villa, you'd always fancy us to score. It just depends on what we do defensively. I've kind of come to the conclusion that I don't think Emery will play Carlos without Pau Torres now. I think unless Pau Torres is fit, I don't think he'll do the shifting concert to right back and putting Carlos in there, because I feel there's been something not quite right with Carlos and Longley together. I'm not digging either of them out, but there's something about that partnership that I don't think works. So I think if Pau Torres is back, you may well see Carlos, you may well see Concert, but actually I think this is a game where we'll see Cash and Moreno at fullback and maybe Kamara dropping in and building up from the back that way with the three. Did you agree with that selection wise?
Not necessarily.
Stop disagreeing with me, Dave.
Oh no, sorry.
Yeah,
I
every
think
week.
if Pau Torres is fit and available, it wouldn't surprise me to see Torres, Carlos, and Konsa against Everton.
Do you think because of set pieces?
Set pieces, they're a big
Generally.
team.
Yeah, it's a good point. It's a good point.
Physical.
Dave. Disagree with me, Order. It's a valid point I hadn't thought of.
My hunch would be that he would go with, even if Pau Torres isn't available, my hunch would be that Konsa would shift to right back and it would be Carlos and Longley. And then Moreno on the left hand side. I do think we miss Konsa when he's not playing centre back, because his recovery pace is excellent. And I think he's improved so much. His reading of the game is absolutely fantastic now. Positional concentration at the back as well is fantastic. So I do think we miss him when he's playing at right back. But I just think, given the physicality that Everton bring, I think my hunch would be that Villa will go with the three centre backs with one at right back.
Yeah, Carlos didn't play in the FA Cup game either. Did he? I can't remember actually. No, he did. No, he didn't. No, he didn't. I was completely. There's been too many games recently with the Christmas games. Well, Carlos didn't play, did he? So maybe that is something Emery was keeping in mind, not playing him this weekend, so he can be fresh for the Everton game on Sunday. There's not really much we can do to make ourselves a tall team. There isn't the options there. That is literally the only thing we can do to make ourselves a bit less susceptible from set players and direct football, isn't it? There isn't really anything else we can do. I suppose we could play Dendoncker, but we're not going to play him over Luiz or Kamara, are we? I guess Tillerman's being back would be a useful option, although I'd expect him to start on the bench. If he does come back, Bailey probably on the right. You would think for this one, McGinn on the left. Maybe Ramsey sits out a game, and then I'm guessing Diaby and Watkins up top for this one.
Yeah, I can't really argue with that, to be honest. I think Ramsey is still for me kind of feeling his way back
Yeah,
in.
for sure.
He's needed the minutes. I think he's had enough 90 minutes. I'm not saying for a second that he's not fit. I just think he's not quite hit the heights that he's had pre-injury and also in the last 18 months or so, because he's set such high standards. Now, I do think, obviously, it will return. He's a brilliant player. I think he's fantastic. He's going to be great for us in the future. So it might well be time, when Luiz is back, now Kamara's back, that, John McGinn shifts over to the left-hand side. It is Kamara and Luiz. I don't think you can drop Leon Bailey at the moment, simply the way he's playing. And then it's a decision as to whether you go with Diaby or Zaniolo or another different kind of combination. He might well decide to go with John McGinn as the player off Watkins if he's still, it's a similar sort of situation with Diaby, really. He set such high standards for himself at the start of the season that if there's a slight drop off, and particularly when other players have had a real uplift in form, like Bailey, like Tielemans pre-injury, he may decide to go with John McGinn as the kind of shadow striker or second striker, and then still play Ramsey on the left-hand side. I think that's a real possibility. But yeah, I think Bailey is a certain starter, definitely.
It's a shame not to have Emi Buendia because I think he scored 3 in a row against Everton. Got a good record against them, so he'll be a huge miss for this one because he seems to love playing against the Toffees. Everton-wise, we're not sure again because we're recording this on a Thursday. We haven't had the press conferences yet with all the injury news. Dwight McNeil could be ruled out, which would be a boost for Villa because he's been really good for them this season. Calvert-Lewin's red got overturned, so he's going to be playing in this one. It's actually good to see him back on the pitch, Dominic Calvert-Lewin, because he just couldn't. Oh God, what's going on there? The thumbs down.
You're giving yourself a thumbs down on Calvert-Lewin.
Oh, look at this! People listening on audio won't know what's going on. But every time I'm in my hand, there seems to be a thumbs up or a thumbs down. But it is good to see him back. I'd rather he wasn't playing against Villa, but I'm glad he's managed to get a bit more of a run of games this season. Idrissa Gana Gueye, who we all know well, will not be playing because he's at AFCON, so he'll be missing. So trying to predict Everton's lineup's not easy. Maybe James Garner moves into the centre and replaces Idrissa Gana Gueye. Dan Juma, who's a bit of a forgotten man, might come in and play on the flanks for Everton. But there has been games where they've lined up with a back five. Ashley Young should return from injury for this one as well. So they've got a couple of options with what they do, haven't they, Everton?
Yeah, and I think Dyche played when they beat Villa in the EFL Cup. He played a 5, I think. And I guess the advantage with the 5 is that the outside centre backs can almost follow the 2-10s, or certainly pick up the 2-10s.
It'd be a savvy tactic that would actually.
And then the wing backs pick up Villa's fullbacks when they advance. So there is an advantage to that, and I think he's kind of rotated between Tarkowski, Jared Branthwaite, and Michael Keane. Michael Keane is the obvious one to come in if he does decide to switch to a 3. Without McNeil, I mean, you'd think Mikalenko would play at left wing back. And then the other one is around Doucouré. I think Doucouré's been out injured, and he was seen back in training this week, so that's a boost. But whether he's ready to start, not so sure. Massive boost having Dominic Calvert-Lewin. I really rate him. He's got all the ingredients. A little bit like Dom Solanke, really. He's got all the ingredients to be a top quality striker. It's just about staying fit, and it seems like now he's in a bit of a rhythm with games, and with his fitness. So for his sake, you hope that he continues that. Obviously, we hope he doesn't score against Villa. But yeah, I just wonder whether Dyche, the other side of the coin, if he doesn't want to play 5, is whether he thinks he wants to be a little bit more ambitious. They haven't won a game since before Christmas, so maybe he wants to take a leaf out of other teams' books, like Burnley, like Middlesbrough, in how to combat Villa, and absolutely do not press the back 4. Absolutely block off the passes into the defensive midfielders with either one striker and an attacking midfielder, or you push 2 central midfielders higher up and try and block those passes into the defensive midfielders. So, yeah, there's question marks as to how he wants to go about it, but you'd like to think that Villa are kind of finding ways to win at the moment, or finding ways to get a result, which in some ways, lots of people say it's a good thing that when you're not playing at your best, you can find results, which it is. But I think Unai Emery would like us to kick back into gear at some point, and things haven't been quite clicking since the Christmas period, just before Christmas. So I think they'll be hoping that they can put on a good performance on Sunday.
Yeah, it's almost felt like we've run out of gas a little bit since that Arsenal win. I mean, they were running on empty that day and managed to see it over the line and win 1-0. But there has been an element of fatigue and tiredness, maybe just mentally knowing that there is a little bit of a break after this one will be a good thing for the players. Go full tilt for this one, and then you haven't got a game next weekend because of the staggered Premier League fixtures. Maybe that'll be a big thing. Right, we're not going to do predictions because we started doing them again, and then promptly Villa lost a few games after we started doing the predictions. So let's go for a key man for each side, Dave. Starting with Everton, who's your key man for Everton in this one?
Everton, I think one to keep an eye on is Jared Branthwaite. He is going to be a star. He's got pace, he's got physicality. He can play as part of a back three. He can play as part of a back four. If he's playing as a back three, as an outside centre back, he's got the pace to live with probably any forward in the Premier League. And he's good on the ball as well. He's got everything. So he is certainly one to watch. A lot of the top clubs are looking at him probably for the summer, and it's going to take a lot of money to get him out of Everton. But certainly for me, he would be one to watch from the Everton perspective.
I'm going to plump for Jordan Pickford. I think last season and this season so far, I think he's been very, very good. Shot stopping is absolutely unbelievable. Distribution is unbelievable. I don't think he's the complete goalkeeper because I do think he's lacking a few things, but I think Everton would have probably gone down actually if they'd had a worse keeper in than Jordan Pickford. He's a massive part of why they started. He's always got a mistake in him, but he's also got world-class saves in him as well, Jordan Pickford. So he's always key to Everton because Everton games are always quite tight. And he can keep them in games on his own sometimes, and then they go down the other end and nick a goal. So I'll pick Jordan Pickford. Villa player, Dave?
Yeah, Villa, I'm going to go for Emi Martinez simply because, I love his kind of penalty box presence. So he might have to come and collect lots of crosses and really command his area. And then, as we always say, he ends up making a top draw save every single game. And I'm sure he'll have to be at his best on Sunday to keep Everton out. So he's going to be really important for Villa at the weekend. So Emi Martinez is my pick.
And I'm going to pick Boubacar Kamara. Could be a physical battle in that central midfield area. I think we really missed him the 3 games that he wasn't there. Anana and Decore, if he plays in midfield, that's a energetic, physical midfield, difficult to deal with. But if Kamara can do his thing and break the game up, I thought he was excellent against Man City and against Arsenal. If Boubacar Kamara does his thing, I think it gives Villa a massive chance of taking 3 points from this game. It'd be important to do something early in this one as well. Everton fans can get a bit like Villa fans at Villa Park. Everton fans can get a bit antsy. Goodison, they're 4 without a win. Suddenly, they don't start the game on the front foot, or it looks a little bit nervy. That fan can always turn and make it difficult for Everton to play there at a big club, Everton. So I think if Villa can do something early and maybe stem the flow a little bit. I feel like we've let in a lot of a few early goals. Every time I'd be completely making that up. Have I made that up?
Possibly.
I think I have made that up completely, but not conceding an early goal, not going 1-0 down, I think would be paramount in this one against Everton. Because the opposite of that, if you go 1-0 down against Everton, the fans go the other way, really get behind them. They then can quite easily get this siege mentality because of the deduction. So I think it's important not to go 1-0 down in this one. But I do think it'll be a tight game, and I do think it'll be a really, really tough game as well for Villa. Dave, thank you ever so much for joining me for this preview show. Always appreciated. And thank you to you, the listener and the viewer as well. Numbers were an absolute joke on the podcast on Monday that I did with Jacob. A couple of really crucial topics in there. I think we're over 25,000 now across all platforms, which are huge numbers for this little show. So thank you very much for those that have watched that. Obviously, there was a few pivotal things in there, including our thoughts on the crest. Kit sponsor kit make for next season, which we now know is Adidas, which is what we were alluding to in the show. And then Villa kind of gave that story to someone, or someone found out from the Telegraph the next day, and it was in there. So yeah, some good stuff in that pod if you want to go back and listen to it. But yeah, listen to this show as well. Well, actually, I'm saying that you already will have listened to it because you'd hear me talking. So that was a stupid thing for me to say. I'm rambling on, so it's time for us to go. Thank you to Adam for producing as well, and to Luke for sponsoring. Have a great weekend. Safe trip to those that are going to Goodison, and up the Villa.